Hey guys, Garrett97 again. This time with a review of the 100 scale G Cannon Magna from the Silhouette Formula 91 series. And unfortunately, this is an exact remold of the old G Cannon. And as you can already tell, it suffers from pretty much every problem a remold can suffer from. Let's bring in the G Cannon and analyze the color scheme. What they did was very simple. The mint green became red, the red became white, the gray has become the gunmetal gray, which is standard for the Silhouette Formula 91 series, and all the extra parts to make the G Cannon Magna are either red, the body and those shoulders, or white. Instead of awesome gray or red, they're white. Yeah, I think we've already sealed the fate of this model kit right here. But let's continue regardless, because, you know, when you have a remold, they might have included a lot of stickers to make up for it, you know. I'm quickly gonna grab a sticker sheet of the Silhouette Gundam Kai here, you know. Usually, these Silhouette formulas come with a lot of stickers. Well, it's like they weren't even trying. We get a red sticker. For the head, we get a green sticker. For the main camera, we get a chin sticker. Whoop-de-frickin-do. We get a black sticker, well, a gray one. For the cockpit, yellow one. For the crotch, 2 white ones. Wow, aren't we being generous? For the chest. And then, oh yeah, one that goes behind the visor. Because, you know, the back of these stickers are silver. So what they did is you have to put it the other way around on the visor so that the silver shines through the visor, which gives off a really awesome effect. That is once again something all the F91, all the Silhouette formulas do. So yeah, that's probably the best thing this kit has to offer. And you know, there should be so much more colors on this machine, so much more gray, and seriously, it doesn't even come close to resembling all the colors it should have. I mean, they could have at least thrown in a couple more stickers. I mean, it might look like this, like it's already a fair amount of stickers, but compared to the other Silhouette formulas, this is laughable. I mean, they could have just as well not given us any stickers at all. Because, you know, this is actually, I think, the smallest sticker sheet of any of the Silhouette formulas, of any of the F91s even, perhaps. And this is by far the kit that could have used them the most. But let's go on and see if there is something, you know, that makes us forgive this model kit. We're kind of getting on our way with these clear ones, you know, the ones we always get with Silhouette formulas. So at least that is something, those very nice clear decals. Then going on to the articulation. Head goes up, down, rotates around all the way. And because this is of course an exact remold of the G Cannon, we already know what to expect. As always, the head is on a peg, so it only goes up and down, not on a ball joint, no wiggling. And the arms rotate around all the way. If you're careful with those giant cannons in the back, will rotate around above the elbow, go out about that far. Then the hands are on ball joints, will wiggle around, turn around, and do everything a ball joint does. The hands are the usual ones, thumb doesn't move, trigger finger is on a separate hinge, and then the bottom 3 fingers are on a separate hinge as well. The waist has some side-to-side movement and rotates around all the way if you're careful, and I hear a lot of clicking, but there we go. And then it also, you know, fidgets around in every direction, but that is mainly because the joint isn't all that secure, because it doesn't really go in any definite direction. It just is a bit on the loose side, let's put it like that. And side skirts actually go out surprisingly far. But, let's put that back. And nobody saw that. Then the front skirts are, as always, molded separately. Go forward about that far. Backwards about that far, and then we gotta get this here out of the way. And actually, the funny thing is, the legs aren't hindered by the back skirt, but by these extra flaps, which actually do not move out of the way any further. So not only is the color scheme disappointing, but the extra parts hinder articulation. While, looking at the design, they could have easily given it extra mobility to just go out further and at least allow the legs a bit more backwards movement. Then looking at the knees, originally they are single jointed for about 90 degrees, but you can very simply actually make them double jointed. And when you look there, if you cut off those two pegs, you actually make it double jointed, and it doesn't lose that much stability doing so. Kind of makes you wonder why they didn't just do that in the first place. And more modifications are on their way. The feet are just on a single ball joint, go forwards, backwards, side to side, will turn around a bit, but you see this gray part here? Well, it's actually connected with a peg at the bottom and then at the top, and you already know what I did then. I cut the one at the top, and now that gives our foot some extra mobility. And once again, this isn't a heavy kit, mainly hollow parts, so it's really no big deal. It's still very sturdy, so you can actually have a lot of fun with this kit, or with the original. So at the very least, articulation is average straight out of the box, and you can actually make it pretty fantastic, especially in the knees and the feet, when you're willing to do a bit of cutting here and there. And now let's go on with the accessories, and let's just have a look at those cannons at the back. As disappointing as the colors are, they actually have a nice movement range. Hold up, and then they go to the side. So actually they can target a lot, and they go also up and down here. So as disappointing as the color is, the cannons themselves are actually pretty nice. So if you're willing to paint them gray, those are some really nice cannons, and that shoulder doesn't really like to stay up all that much. So it has to be said, those cannons are definitely an improvement over the cannons of the G cannon, which can only go up and down and slightly to the side. So at least they are very well articulated. And also, the flap here at the top goes up and down. Not a lot, but it moves. And then these flaps also go a bit backwards and forwards, but not nearly enough to give the legs enough movement. And those are actually all the accessories it comes with, just like the normal G cannon. It doesn't come with any handheld weapons, even though the manual actually tells us that technically it should be equipped with a beam rifle. But as I've said 100 times already, it's a remold of the G cannon. So the real good news is we can actually ditch all those horribly painted parts, well, all those horribly colored parts, and we're getting all the parts required for a red G cannon. So here's the torso with the cannons. We're getting the shoulder parts, and also the head. And also, of course, those two ear parts. And, the head isn't assembled because it uses the same clear visor, so you have to take this head apart and then put it on there. And what the manual tells us that we can do is that, well, we can technically put this on here and then put those arms on here, but the big problem is those ears are way too long, and you're gonna have to be lucky or they're gonna pop off. And let's see, now they're working, but you gotta be careful because you can already see those ears are now getting kind of squashed to the inside. So when I was trying this a few days ago, the ear, I think particularly the left ear, just didn't want to stay on. I guess it just needed a bit of resting. So, well, you can't just replace the entire body. And you know what? Let's immediately do that and show you guys the end result, because visually that is a giant improvement. And then you can, of course, also just go all the way and simply change the head, change the shoulders, and get yourself the regular G cannon, but then in red. Let's get this out of the way. And this is actually how it has been standing on my shelf ever since I built it. Because, you know, those white cannons, they look kind of nice in a weird way, but more in a toy way, not in a giant combat mecha way. And just visually, this is already a lot better. And this shoulder really doesn't want to stay up. Let's push it in a bit. There we go. Then one final thing before we move on to the final conclusion is that you can remove these parts here, and then they will reveal some polycaps inside. And that is, I assume, to put the parts of the F90s on there. Or one other fun thing you can do is you can take the polycaps that these cannons attach to, swap them with the polycaps that are already in there, and then you can attach those machine guns to the legs. And then you just grab that body, and suddenly your G Cannon Magna has a hell of a lot more firepower. Oh, and one final accessory that we're getting is that, you know, for the off chance that you wouldn't want to use these cannons, we get these cover pieces. So what you do is you simply yank out the cannons and then put this over that gap. You know, it's a good afterthought just in case you want to give him a handheld weapon and you don't want to use these cannons, you know, for some modifications. As always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? And it all kind of depends. If you just want a G Cannon Magna straight out of the box, you're not going to paint it, then the answer is an absolute astounding no. However, if you're willing to do a bit of painting, then suddenly this is a kit you might want to get because, you know, even though those cannons look horrible straight out of the box, they're actually pretty nice technically. They have a lot of movement going on, so if you're gonna paint them gray, you can actually make this kit look really fantastic. And if you're gonna, you know, do those extra paint touch-ups that it needs, when you look at the manual, it actually looks pretty damn cool. So it all depends on how much love you want to put into this kit. If you're just a straight builder, no. If you're willing to paint, then yes. If you like the way the end result will look, then you might want to look into it. Or if you just want to paint, if you just want to pay a bit extra and get yourself a red G Cannon, then this is once again something you might want to consider. Other than that, well, it's probably best to stay away from this kit, even though it's not that expensive at 1,000 yen. But that, of course, puts it at the same price as the Hardy Gun and the Vigna Zera, which are, of course, massively better than this kit. So if you aren't particularly fond of it, you're much better off buying either those two or something completely different. And talking about those two, let's get on with the size comparisons. Here are the Hardy Gun and the Vigna Zera. As you can see, it's actually a rather small kit too. So those two, same price, bigger, better. I think that deal is closed. Then let's put him next to the old F91 and then bring in the Silhouette Gundam. Once again, it's a little guy, a little chubby guy. And then for the real killer, let's bring in a massive 144 scale Zaku. And head height, it seems like the Zaku 3 is actually bigger. Let's here have a look at the normal G Cannon again, and then finally we of course have to compare him to a normal sized 1/100 scale, and that is a pretty big size difference. So that's all for this review, and see you guys next time.